Welcome on my podcast, Permission Entrepreneuriale, that can be translated by Entrepreneurship Permission. Here we talk about new ways of living, being bold, think, and act out of the box. I want this podcast to be empowering and inspiring. I wish you a good listening. Welcome on this new episode. I am so happy to welcome Taylor. Hi, Taylor.
Hi, glad to be here.
Yeah, so nice. You are my last episode I will record in Costa Rica until next time, but when, I don't know. And I'm so glad to do it with you. We've met last autumn, strangely in many places in a whole week, and in places that we weren't supposed to meet. So at some point we started to talk together, and I feel that the way you choose your life since years now is very interesting and can be also very inspiring for many people. So I'm very glad to have you here today and to talk about your life and your choices. I think first what would be very interesting is that you introduce yourself from where you're coming and where you are at now.
Yeah, all right, great. So I have most recently been living in California. I moved to California when I was 12 and have lived there on and off since then, mostly in Northern California, about halfway between San Francisco and Lake Tahoe, a small town called Davis, if anybody knows where that is. Prior to that, I lived for 3 years in Oahu, on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. And then before that, I lived the first 9 years of my life in Boston. But my parents are both Australians. So my parents were born and raised in Australia and then came to the United States when they were in their mid-20s and had my sisters and I in the U.S. So I'm a dual citizen. I'm an Australian citizen and an American citizen. And since, I went to college in Santa Barbara, and then after college, I traveled for a year in Australia and around Europe. I basically spent more or less the next 10 years after college traveling. I would work for a little bit, work in restaurants, leave and travel for 6 months, 8 months, come back, work again. And I was always inspired by the idea of mini retirements, which is an idea that I got from Tim Ferriss, the author of the 4-Hour Workweek. Yeah. It really resonated with me about, I'm paraphrasing here, but his point was essentially, why wait until the end of your life to retire and go do everything that you want? Just every 4 or 5 years, retire and take a traveling break. And I was speaking about this with friends last night. I'm so grateful I did that because energy levels change as you grow older. I'm going to be 39 in 2 weeks. And I'm so glad that I lived in Europe in college and, would travel around and go to hostels with 8 people in the dorm hostel. And I don't want to do that now, but I'm glad I did it then. And so, I think the second part of your question was, how did I get here? My approach that I'm very comfortable with now, but that it took a long time to get really comfortable with, is that it's really up to each of us to define what a successful life looks like for us. And if we don't do that, it's going to be defined for us by what our family thinks, or what the prevailing society thinks, or what our friends think. And even if they're not coming to you and saying, you should be doing this, it's very easy for us to internalize all of those voices and actually say those things to ourselves, like, you should get a job, you should settle down, you should quit messing around. And so that, I think, more than anything, is the reason why I've always been so committed to travel and exploration and trying new things, because I've defined for myself that a successful life is one where I have the maximum freedom and autonomy, one where I'm always growing and learning and discovering and exploring, and one where I'm actually spending as much time as I can on the things that make me feel most alive.
Interesting. It's just starting, but it's almost philosophical what you're.
Yeah.
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 Um, so, and also I think that you did something pretty bold. Is that so? When you were in California, few months or few years ago, I don't remember when you left. When you left California.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I left about a year ago.
About a year ago. So
Yeah.
you also left a pretty big job in San Diego, if I remember well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, for basically the last 10 years, I've been working on and off in the technology field. I've been a recruiter for software companies. So essentially, when software companies raise money and need to grow very fast, they come to the company that I was working with, and we help them grow their sales teams. So, another way they call it a headhunter. I don't know if they say that in France.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I was a headhunter, but yeah, it was a big job. I mean, going from, the heart of venture capital technology software companies, and within those companies, kind of the most type A people are the salespeople and the sales leaders. And so it was a very, very intense job.
I guess so. So you had the intensity of a job, but also, I guess, the money with it.
Well, yeah, to be honest, that's the only reason I did it.
Let's be honest here.
Yeah, let's be honest. Yeah.
And so then it's also always and often bold, to quit, even if it's pretty intense, even if you're not fulfilled by the job. But then when you have money, many, and I think the most of people are choosing that success is earning lots of money in our world.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, they also feel that their job is not for them, or it's not fulfilling them now, and they want to change, but often they resist because of the money. And it's true that in our societies, you need money to afford your life. So how you took this decision?
Yeah, wow. It's such an important question, because this really is the essence of what everybody comes up against. I'm pausing here because it could be a 3-hour conversation in and of itself, and I will spare the audience that. I'll say this. When you look at the landscape of people that are talking about quitting jobs, you have everything from, on the one hand, you have people that say, just take the leap and just do it and just go and trust and, burn the ships, which is this story of, these explorers that landed on a foreign land and burnt the ship so that they wouldn't be able to retreat. And you have that kind of mindset of just go for it all the way. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have people who are super cautious and say, well, save up 3 years worth of living expenses. And like most things, I think the right answer is the middle path. The guiding light for me has always been I can't honestly say always, but it is the guiding light for me now, after many mistakes of, just randomly quitting my job on a whim, or, staying in a job that I really didn't like for much longer than I wanted to or should have. I really focus now on what is my day-to-day experience. I was actually really inspired by Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, the CEO of Apple and kind of the creative genius behind that. He gave a commencement speech at Stanford University, I believe in 2009, maybe mid 2000s.
Okay.
And he basically said something to the students where he said, when you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, if you have too many days of waking up and looking in the mirror and just not being excited about what you're going to go do, he's like, you have to make a change. And so for me, that's always been the focus, is just checking in with myself and saying, am I happy? Does this work? Does this work for my life? This is my one life. Do I want to be living it this way? And once I'm clear that I want to go make a change, I want to move or I want to quit my job, I don't immediately do it, because I've done that before. If you quit and you have no money, it's very stressful. you get out and you have no income, or you have very little savings, you have diminishing savings. It's very hard to be in a creative, inspired place when you're worrying about money. So it takes some planning. But what I think is the most important part of the process is really checking in with yourself about, what do I want? Most of the time, we just want to feel good. We want to feel happy. And if you're not really feeling good and feeling happy, it is incumbent upon you to actually do something about that, make a choice. And then once I've always decided, okay, I'm going to quit, I'm going to go do something, then kind of the logistical things like saving money or planning, they kind of fall into place. But the purpose and the intention is really the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then, as you said, I think when you want to create savings, or then you put energy in the project and not anymore in your job.
100%.
And then it gives another perspective and another
100%.
energy and another vision also of why you are doing this job again.
100%. I have had multiple instances where I decided to quit my job and go traveling. And when I made that decision, I had no money. And then just because I made that decision, all kinds of things happened. When I was in a sales job, I closed more sales. How they always talk about, oh, the universe provides. And, for many years, I believe that, but for many years I was like, what are they talking about? But I literally 10 years ago, when I quit a job and decided to go travel in Asia for 5 months, I randomly got a letter in the mail that said, you are going to be getting $8,200 from a class action settlement that I didn't even know I was a part of, from an old job. And I just got an $8,000 check like a month after I quit my job. And then I got another extra severance, and I got more deals closed. So it's just, when you line up your intention, things really do fall into place. But as you were saying, you're more inspired, you have a goal. It's really when you're in that position where you say, I'm unhappy and I don't know what I'm going to do. It's like being a ship with no sails. You're just...
Yeah. But also sometimes it happens, I started this year, the 2023 year, in this position that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's also okay to leave this kind of transitions.
Oh, 100%. Don't, just to clarify, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with...
I know, but I just wanted to add this.
Yeah, for sure. I've been in that state so many times. It's all part of the process, right? It's when you're lost and confused and unhappy. Well, the beautiful part of that experience is that it's kind of like, the more you suffer, the stronger your desire to not suffer.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
that's
true.
Human.
It's
Humanity.
true. Yeah.
And then, so you decided to, you quit a job, and then so you decided directly to go to Costa Rica, or you did something beyond that?
I quit my job, and then I didn't do anything for 4 months, basically.
Okay.
I'm pausing because I'm just like, oh, how much of the story to tell? But more or less, about a little over 4 years ago, my mother died very suddenly. She got sick on a Thursday and went into the hospital on Friday, and then died on Saturday on the next day. So my mother got sick and died within 2 days. And it was very shocking and very surprising and very tragic. And that was pretty much 1 year before COVID. So after, mourning her and grieving for the next year, it was kind of like, yay, back to life. And then 2 weeks later, the COVID lockdown started. And of course, that was, not just, that was a tragedy for the whole world. And then my fiance, at the time I was engaged, and, we started having struggles like so many people did in COVID, and our relationship ended a year after that. And so my point in sharing this is that I quit not so much because I was inspired, but because I was totally burnt out and exhausted emotionally and energetically and just in every single way. And so I quit my job because I just actually got sick for about a month, and I had a cough that just wouldn't go away. And my body knew. I just said, I can't keep pushing myself. And so I didn't do anything for 4 months. Like sit on a beach, sit in coffee shops, read. It was. But resting. But going back to what we were talking about earlier, I had saved money, from my job. So I was able to do that in a comfortable way. I was able to not work because I had, planned, and I always think it's a good idea to have money saved. You're never going to regret having money in the bank.
Yeah, I know. And so then you decided to go to Costa Rica.
Yeah. So this is pretty much 2 years ago, May of 2021. I was sitting in my kitchen in San Diego, and I just had this thought. I said, I'm going to do ayahuasca. I'm going to do it.
So I think maybe it's interesting also that you explain what is ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Because I know, you know.
Yeah. And
absolutely. We know, but then I maybe various listeners that.
Yeah. I'm happy to explain it. So ayahuasca, well, I'm not an expert on it, but I'll do my best to give an explanation. So ayahuasca is a plant medicine that originally comes, I believe, from the Amazonian region in the Peruvian Amazon or Brazil. I know there's a bunch of different countries that have the Amazon there, but it's a plant medicine that has been used for a long, long time by native tribes, and it does have a psychedelic effect. But maybe when I speak about it, I'll speak about more about my experience of it, because I don't necessarily feel qualified to explain what it is to everybody.
Just say that it's a plant medicine.
Yeah, it's a plant medicine, but and I think when people hear the word psychedelic, they might think of a drug that you would take at a music festival. Ayahuasca is very much not a recreational medicine. It's really something to be taken in a deep healing and context, in a very safe container with people that, you want to do it with a lot of integrity and a lot of intention around healing, and it's with a lot of awareness. Yeah. I would recommend, if anybody's going to experiment with any type of substance, to just really bring as much awareness as you can. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think it's always better with awareness. Life's better with awareness. Yeah, I had known about it for about 8 years, and I'd always been waiting for the right time. And yeah, I just kind of had this impulse sitting in my kitchen of, I think I'm ready to do this, and reached out to a friend that I know had sat with the medicine before, and did a little bit of research and looked into a few places, and ended up coming down here to Costa Rica and sitting in a retreat for 9 days in June, almost a year ago, and had such an incredibly profound experience in that 9-day retreat that before that retreat was even completed, I had signed up for the next one in August.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then went home for a few weeks, and then came back in August and sat another 9-day retreat. And then I think before I'd even been back in August for a few days, I canceled my ticket home. And I just knew, I said, I'm staying here. There's no way I'm leaving. So I canceled my ticket home. And then within a couple months had found some land to buy, and I'm actually about to close on some property in a couple weeks. Yeah. It's been a journey, but yeah.
And what do you like about Costa Rica?
For me, it's just, the motto here that everybody says is pura vida, pure life. It's a greeting. I mean, literally, people, just for the audience, people say it when you walk into the grocery store. It's like a way of saying hello. It's a way of saying goodbye. It's a way of saying, how's it going? It's very similar to in Hawaii, how they say aloha. Okay. They say aloha, they call it, and in Hawaii, they say the aloha spirit. It's almost like a mantra for the land. Mm. And I feel like that's what Pura Vida is for Costa Rica. And it really is pure life. I mean, this place is so vibrant. The trees, the forest, the water, the rain, the rushing rivers, the ocean, the forests right down to the ocean, the I mean, I see toucans almost every single day. I hear monkeys. I get woken up by howler monkeys and birds. And yeah, there's insects and cockroaches and, there's just so much life here. So for me to just be swimming in this kind of river of life, so to speak, that is so vibrant, it's incredibly enriching. It's also quite destabilizing sometimes because things move so quickly here. You throw a banana peel outside and it rots within 4 hours.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a metaphor for how life here works. The cycles go so fast, and it's not for the faint of heart. But I would say, if you're someone who is interested in growth and development and pushing yourself and seeing what's next, yeah, I can't think of many places that rival here.
Yeah, exactly. And you said the word vibrant. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I would also use this one. Yeah, here all the sounds. There's always sounds.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that you cannot hear anything.
Yeah.
And it's very vibrant. And I think it's also a very healing land.
Yes.
Where I feel all the nervous system
Mm-hmm.
has the space to relax.
Yeah.
Which wasn't something for me in Europe.
Yeah.
For example. So yeah, this is quite a country.
Yeah.
And I think you really have to experience it to talk about it and to know all about what we are talking now. But yeah, that's nice. So what is important for you now in your life?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. The most important thing to me right now, and it has been for a number of years, is my own internal spiritual well-being. And I'll explain a little bit what I mean by that. Is that
please.
For me, it's really just my relationship with myself, and it's really how well can I sit with myself, comfort myself, love myself, just be with myself. The degree to which I'm able to do that makes everything else in my life better. And when I'm anxious, when I'm uncomfortable, when I'm angry, when I'm just unsettled, everything in my life gets worse and more difficult. It's harder to work. It's, harder to be kind to the people that I'm in relationship with. And so it's taken me many years to really honor the fact that I need to put myself first. It's very easy in our society to always be focused on what am I doing for other people? What am I doing for other people? How am I helping? How am I helping? But I very passionately believe that we can only give away what we ourselves possess. And so if I want to be someone who helps the world be more peaceful, be more loving, be more calm, be more clear, be able to think more clearly, well, how can I do that effectively if I'm not peaceful, calm, loving, and clear? So that is the thing that I focus on more than anything else.
And thank you for that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
And I once again, I totally agree with that. I think that we've been modeled with all the religious thing that you have to put the others first and then you second. But as they say in the plane, you put the mass first and then you help your children and you help everyone. Yeah. So I think it's so important to have a life that nourishes you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also have this resonance effect all around you, and you can help others, you can have a real presence for others, and that's life-changing, I think.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
then it's a big path.
Yeah.
It's not like you wake up in one day and say, okay, I choose that, and you are.
Oh. The spiritual path is, it's definitely a path, and in many respects, I'm less certain of things now than I ever have been. What I mean by that is, I think when I was younger, I used to think that I had, I'd read a book or I'd go to a meditation course and I'd be like, oh, this is the answer. This is it. This is what it's going to be. And the longer I've practiced, meditation and study, the more you realize, oh, There's just, it's like the never-ending unfolding. It's like an onion that just has infinite layers.
Yeah. I think exactly. When you start therapy,
Yeah.
you're just, oh, I did one session and
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
No, it was just a very small introduction of the whole work.
Yeah, totally.
But we have a life for that. So
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it's such a joyful process. I mean, I love growing and exploring and understanding myself better, and it's fun for me. So, yeah.
And so you said what is important for you now,
Yeah.
but so the name of your series is I Choose My Life Now.
Yeah.
So are you choosing something very special right now for you?
Yeah. Ooh, there's so many places I could take that. I'll answer it two ways. There's one that's kind of a more externally like focused thing, and then there's one that's more internally, philosophically and spiritually. So maybe I'll start with the latter right now, the internal. The big thing I'm focusing on right now, you said the name of your podcast is I'm Choosing My Life Right Now, or
I Choose My Life Now.
I Choose My Life Now. So one thing I'm really working on right now is just loving and comforting myself no matter what I'm going through and no matter what I'm experiencing. Another way to say it is really doing a lot of inner child work, like really getting present to that part of me that is still a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6-year-old little boy who most of the time, that little boy doesn't really care about real estate contracts or, business deals or getting the best deal at the supermarket. Like, he's not interested in any of that. He just wants to feel good. He wants to have fun. He wants to feel loved, but he also wants to feel safe. And, I'm someone who I've dealt with a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety in my life. And so a lot of what I'm working on now is just loving that side of me that as I'm taking on all of these big things, I get scared, I'm like, oh no, what if I'm making the wrong decision? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? And instead of yelling at that side of like, you need to, man up or be stronger or blah, 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 it's really just almost imagining that there's a scared little boy that's coming to me and saying, but are we going to be okay? Is it going to be okay? And then just kind of really comforting that part and be like, of course it's going to be okay. You don't have to worry about this. I am going to take care of this. I being the adult, and not making that little boy have to worry about all of these things that he shouldn't have to worry about it. You wouldn't go, I don't have children, but you wouldn't go to your kid and your 6-year-old and be like, I don't know if I can pay the mortgage this month, or like, we don't have enough money for food. You wouldn't do that to a little kid, because the kid wouldn't understand, and if anything, would just scare him, and so that's a big thing I'm working on right now. And then the second thing, well, it's kind of related, is because that little boy likes to have fun, and so I'm also really focused on recording music again. I've been a musician my whole life, and it's been a while since I've recorded music in a serious way, and I've got a lot of songs that are ready to go, and that's a big part of me, just allowing that, frankly, inner child in me that just loves to sing and loves to, express himself, and just giving him the space and the energy to actually do that.
Yes, that's true. You're a singer.
I am a singer, yeah.
With a beautiful voice. Well, thank you. So you said that there's two things. This is the internal one.
Yeah, the internal one.
And so what's
the external one is the music, yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Because I'm going to be recording songs. We actually have some friends. We're setting up a recording studio here with like professional quality gear.
Wow.
So we're going to record music and then release that. And yeah, so that's kind of the more externally focused thing.
Then can't wait to listen to.
Yeah. It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
And then I think last question. What is the boldest thing you did in your life?
The boldest thing I did in my life?
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, it's emotional to talk to, but I'm happy to share about it. I think the boldest thing I did was to ask my former fiance to marry me. And it's emotional and still hard because I'm working through the process of grieving that relationship. But it is the truth. I mean, I've done a lot of bold things in my life, quitting jobs, traveling, but to go through the process of really sitting with myself and just facing the reality that I was about to ask someone to spend the rest of their life with me. It was a big process that I went through to actually really get present to what that actually means and what type of commitment that would take from me and who I would have to become to be able to be in a relationship like that. And so when I finally made that choice and asked her to marry me, that's probably the boldest thing I've done. And it's all part of the process, but it's hard, because that relationship's now over. And so my point is that sometimes you make really bold moves and what you think's going to happen doesn't happen. I was going to say it doesn't work out, but who knows? I mean, I probably wouldn't be in Costa Rica if I was still in that relationship, and I wouldn't be buying land here, and I wouldn't have met you, and I wouldn't have met all these people. And so it's not my place to say that it was good or bad that it happened, but it definitely didn't happen as I thought it would happen.
Then that is living your life.
That is life.
Yeah.
I'll say this as we wrap up. One thing that my dad has always said to me over my life is, it's not his quote, but man plans and God laughs.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's true. We plan, we have all these plans, and then God just kind of laughs. I like to think a benevolent laughter, say, ha, you think but you don't really know what's going to happen.
The funny thing is that just before starting this episode, we took 3 minutes meditation together. And I put the intention to offer this episode to the divine.
Beautiful.
So
yeah,
it's funny to end this episode with these sentences.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Well, thank you so much, Taylor, for sharing with us with such an open heart, and that means a lot for me, so thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening this episode. If you liked it and feel inspired, I invite you to share it with your family and friends. To support this podcast, you can give it 5 stars, comment, and add it in your favorites. There are more episodes in English to come on the 3rd Friday of each month. And follow me on Instagram. Bye!